welcome back to Rue's Life. So it's time for this month's Ponderings from the Polytunnel. It's August. I do believe the last Ponderings I did was back in June. I missed July, so apologies to those of you that enjoy this section. And I just want to start with a massive thank you, firstly to those of you that have subscribed to me and stayed with me and continue to watch and engage with my videos. But also I've had quite a number of new subscribers recently, so thank you so much for jumping on board. I really hope you're enjoying the content, and thank you, because it really does mean a lot to us YouTubers when people do actually, you know, take the time to subscribe and engage with the channel. So thank you very much. And just while I'm talking about the channel in general, some of you that have watched me for a while will notice I normally upload twice a week on Wednesdays and Sundays. Quite early in the morning I have them scheduled, but more recently I've just been popping one video out on a Wednesday evening, and I have chucked a couple of extras in as well, but I am kind of just doing the Wednesdays at the moment. And that's predominantly because I'm very aware that you know, this time of the year we're all busy, you, me, everybody. People haven't got so much time for viewing. You know, we've got these long days and we're outside gardening or doing all the other things that we enjoy, and we're not spending so much time, which is probably a good thing that we're not spending quite so much time on social media. So that's the reason there's been a few less videos of late, but I do intend to go back to my Wednesdays and Sundays in the morning regularly going forward. But do drop a comment below. You know, if you want me to continue doing the 2 a week, I'm more than happy to do that, but I have just noticed viewing figures dropping off. I'm happy to put the content out there if people want to watch it, but you know, sort of popping 2 videos out a week when people aren't so interested at this time of the year, you know, it seems crazy. So let me know if you want me to continue with that. As I say, I will pick them up again in the autumn, but just through these summer months I had popped down to 1 regular and then a few others in between. So it is, I think it's the 4th or the 5th, is that terrible? I can't remember, of August, and it's just gone 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm just going to have a look at the temperatures. So it's 27 degrees in here and it's 25 degrees outside. It's been a cooler start this morning and it's been a little overcast, and there's quite a breeze outside, and that's one of the reasons I thought I'd film this in here today, rather than doing, you know, a plot or a farm tour or something like that, which I will get filmed in the coming days or weeks, but it's a bit windy outside for filming today. So things here in the polytunnel are going really well. Obviously you can't see all around me, but you know, you can see behind me, and all around the polytunnel it's lush and it's green. I'm just looking at my squash plants up on the staging that you can't see. Below that I've got potatoes. Next to me here I've got the basil, which just smells amazing. The salad bed, the parsnips doing really well, the kale, the chard, kale's outside. I've got peas, tomatoes, I've had some beautiful poppies in here, the chilies are coming along, the cucumbers finally after a slow start, and actually there's going to be a massive advantage to my cucumbers being slower this year. So if you've watched previous videos or you follow me, you'll be aware that my original cucumbers, when I started them, when I normally would, when I actually put them into their final growing space, they just died for no particular reason. So I started some more. They're looking absolutely brilliant. There's some little tiny cucumbers starting to form, but the advantage of them being later is my tomatoes, which are just starting to fruit. I've got some that are about this big. I've got a selection of different varieties, but all the vines are starting to fruit now, and at the rate that they're growing and the rate that the cucumbers are growing, I've already harvested my onions, and I have some red onions. So actually this year I may be able to harvest some tomatoes and cucumbers at the same time, chop up a red onion, a little bit of olive oil, throw some basil in. I'm going to have an amazing Greek salad. So going forward, what started out as a negative, I think I can actually turn into a positive, and in future growing seasons I'm going to actually start if this comes together, if this grand plan comes together, I will actually deliberately start my cucumbers later in the future, so that I can get those tomato and cucumbers harvested at the same time. Because it's always really frustrating, isn't it? You have a glut of tomatoes and the cucumbers come later, unless some of you have already worked this out and got it down to a fine art, but you know, I've always found my cucumbers come a bit sooner than my tomatoes do. So that's a real positive for me. The stuff outside's doing really well. The squash should be going out this week, and in fact may even be out by the time you watch this video. My nematodes, you should have watched that video already, are in, and it takes up to 4 days. So I can't remember which day I did them, but it was, I think, 4 days ago today. So all being well, I'll get those squash plants out either later on today or in the next couple of days, and hopefully they're going to be in with a better chance than the last lot which were completely decimated by those pesky slugs. But other than that, everything else outside is looking really good. I have had some harvests, so let me think what I've harvested. So the onions are in and they're still in the staging here. I've actually just acquired a new to us, but in very good condition, chest freezer from my lovely sister. So that will mean we've actually got 2 chest freezers. We've got one kind of square shaped one, and this one's a little bit bigger, which is going to mean it will really make a difference to us what we're going to store. Something I've been trying to get better at is, you know, if we're working towards more self-sufficiency, it's being able to have our own produce all year round, even when we're not growing it. So it's that ability to store, and my decision is that I'm going to freeze. Now I know lots of people do sort of canning or jarring, drying and so on, but I do know there's a few people out there, and in fact Vivi, I know from Vivi's Kitchen Garden, she's completely self-sufficient, and I know that she freezes an awful lot. So even my potatoes, I'm going to parboil those, freeze them. The onions and shallots, I'm going to chop and freeze. And pretty much all the tomatoes the same, and obviously not the cucumbers. I don't think they'll freeze very well. Obviously there's some things that you like to eat fresh. That is my long-term plan, and I'm hoping that by the end of the season I'm going to have a nice freezer full of goodies. I will still have a few bits and bobs because I do tend to keep, I mean, the potatoes I've done in bags this year, so I may be harvesting them sooner than I normally would, because I'll often leave them in the beds, but I don't think they'll do so well being kept in the bags. But parsnips, carrots, that kind of thing, I tend to store them in the ground and just pull them little and often. I have had my broad beans in. Again, you may have watched the previous video. I'll leave links to any of the videos that I mentioned today up above in case you are new and you haven't seen them, or you may just have missed them. So if you'd like to watch them, then you can. So yeah, I've had the broad beans in. Smaller harvest than I would have liked, but I'm actually really pleased with it considering the start that I had. The onions are in. I'm trying to think because I've got some spaces. What else have I actually harvested? Oh, we've had some leek. And generally speaking, I've been just kind of, I tend to pick what I need. So, for example, the other day I had a leek, one of the shallots, which is already here and drying, some chard, a couple of carrots. So I tend to just come out and pick. I don't do big harvests. I tend to just come out and get what I need each day, be that just you know, a few bits and bobs for a salad, or you know, some peas and carrots to add to a meal. So yeah, that's generally how I do things. But there will be some bigger harvests, as I say, and the plan is to get those frozen. So all in all, plot and polytunnel doing really well. Everything's finally caught up, and I think going into August and September, everything is really going to come into its own. So everything on the farm is doing fine. We've moved the sheep now into their front, kind of what we call our summer field. So they're actually, the way that the farm is laid out, if any of you have watched my previous farm tours, and again there'll be one coming up soon, this area that I grow the vegetable in is a little paddock, and opposite it, on the other side of the drive and the gate, is a virtually identical paddock, and the sheep tend to live there through the bulk of the summer months, so that's where they are at the moment, and they're fit and healthy and well. Little Pony has been being kept in his little piggy starvation pen, which we built for him and I did show in a previous farm tour. So he's been spending time intermittently, as he always does through the summer months, in there to keep him off the grazing because it's bad for his health, but he does also spend some time in with the big horses. Garth is absolutely brilliant. I've been riding more again, which is fantastic. And again, for those of you that are interested, if you want to see more of the riding, drop me a comment below, and I will film next time I'm riding, and I'll pop that out for you. So yeah, I'm no competing still at the moment, what with one thing or another. There are competitions up and running again, but I've decided I'm going to sit tight, and I'll probably start competing again autumn and winter. I actually prefer competing in the winter months. I always have. I don't know why. It's just something I always find that I get more competitions in through the winter months than I ever do through the summer. Probably partly because I'm more wrapped up with the growing and gardening in the summer months. And also, you know, there's a lot more maintenance on the farm through the summer. Everything, you know, is growing, and we've got weeds to keep on top of and water troughs to empty and keep clean. So yeah, I've talked about that balance before, but I do find historically that I've naturally always got out more through the autumn and winter months with the horses than I tend to do through the spring and summer. Fish was lame about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago, severely lame. So I brought him in, and I suspected it could be an abscess in his foot, but obviously wasn't sure. He had a lot of heat and swelling in the limb. It was his left foreleg. I actually had the farrier coming out anyway. He was booked to come on the Wednesday, and I think we discovered him lame maybe on the Sunday. He was still eating, brighting himself, ears forward. He was just incredibly lame, so I had him stabled. Sorry, itchy eye. That's better. Sorry. So I brought him in, had him stable, brought Garth in, so he had company, and I treated myself just with. I always have first aid kit for all the animals. He had some pain relief that's also a bit anti-inflammatory, complete box rest. And I cold hosed the area up to 3 times a day, which is great for helping with the pain and reducing inflammation. And actually, my farrier arrived on the Wednesday. I was all ready for him. He was actually early. He comes out to us every 6 to 8 weeks. Garth is shod, so he has his shoes done every 6 to 8 weeks, and always. And then the other 2 guys aren't shod, so whenever I feel they need their feet looking at and trimming, we squeeze that in as well. So my farrier was more than happy to have a little look. With horses, any lameness sort of foot and, well, any lameness really that you suspect is sort of below the knee or below the hock, which for those of you that aren't horsey is the pointy kind of backward knee on the back leg. Any sort of lameness really from there down, you generally would get your farrier out first before you go to the vet. Obviously if he hadn't found anything, or if I hadn't found anything, I would have then called my vet out that day as well. But as it happened, that very morning, it was indeed an abscess, and if you imagine this is a horse's foot, the swelling was very much here, but horses, as you are probably aware, have hooves, and those hooves are a little bit like our fingernails, but of course they're completely around. So all of the soft tissue that's encased in that foot, if it ever tries to swell, it can't go anywhere, and if you get infection, it can't go anywhere, so things tend to go up. You get a huge amount of pain because it's trying to swell, a bit like if ever you bruised, you know, I nearly said a rude word. If ever you have whacked your thumb with a hammer, you know that that pain is pretty intense, and some of you may have had to have it lanced. I certainly have, at least once in my lifetime, to release that pressure. So you've got the hoof, which is hard and made out of horn and keratin, and as I say, anything that's in there, it can cause quite dramatic looking lameness because it can be very painful. And above the hoof, before the hair starts on the leg, there's a little band called the coronet band, and that can get a bit soft and squidgy during, you know, if it's been wet, or, you know, when they're walking in the morning through long grass in the dew. And unshod horses, of course Fish is unshod now since he's retired, are prone to getting a little bit of gravel that can go into the sole of the foot. It generally gets in at the area called the white line between the edge of the hoof and the sole, and we've had, if you recall, some very wet weather, so that foot can be a little bit softer. A little gravel can work its way in, and then things tend to travel upwards, so it's caused an infection, it's travelled up, and then it actually burst out on the coronet band. Horses with shoes on can also get abscesses in their feet, but it's more common in unshod horses. and they are really quite easy to treat. So sometimes it won't have travelled up and the farrier will actually dig it out from underneath, and then you have to poultice down. But on this occasion it actually burst out on the coronet band, so we used a poultice and drew out all that infection, and it's quite an instantaneous relief for them. As soon as it's burst and you're pulling out the pus and infection, it relieves the pressure and they feel so much better. So within 4 to 5 days he's sound as a pound, he's back out playing in the field as if nothing's ever happened. But it was quite alarming at the time. The dogs are doing fine. The horses, as I say, are great. The sheep are doing fine. Chickens, I will film a chicken video because I know some of you like to see the chickens, and I haven't actually been in there with the camera for a while. They're all doing brilliantly. The ex-bats, I mean, I know I rave about them, but they've really come into their own this summer, and they're just so cheeky. I mean, they come rushing out to me every time I go to see them. They're always keen to be picked up for a cuddle. So yeah, I'll get some filming done in there as well for those of you that would like to see that. But all in all, everything on the farm is fit and healthy. And talking about health, again, those of you that follow me will know I've had a bit of a rough journey with my chronic migraine, but I started my new medication back in June, and it's just gone from strength to strength. I am feeling so much better. I am not getting these horrendous headaches and all the other symptoms that go with it. I am still getting days where I do get all the other symptoms and I feel as though I'm developing a migraine, but then I never actually get the head pain. So it's a little bit of a strange sensation, but do you know what? It's a million times better than what I was dealing with before. And I had a small migraine yesterday. Only lasted for 4 hours. I did use some medication to lift it. Nothing compared to what I have been experiencing, but leading up to that I actually had 17, can't believe it, clear days. It was amazing. Prior to that, I think the longest I could go was 2 or 3 days. I just can't remember having this time where every day I wake up and think, you know, I haven't got a headache, and I start the day and I still haven't got a headache. As I say, sometimes get the symptoms and feel as though I think I'm experiencing a migraine, but it's stopping the pain, and it is just fantastic. So and also I have a neurology appointment coming up next week, but I have already been liaising with my neurologist, and she's happy because I'm having such a good response to the medication. It was on a 3-month trial. It's very expensive, so the NHS can only fund a certain number of people, and I've been so fortunate that I've A, been considered, and B, she's actually agreed to continue me on this medication, and then it'll be an annual review, so that is such a relief. So health wise, I'm so much better, doing brilliantly, back in work, back to full shifts, and absolutely loving it. Books, let's talk about books. So I'm just going to have a slurp of coffee. So last time I did my Ponderings from the Polytunnel, I've actually brought the books with me today. I had started reading, I think I'd just finished The Book Club, which I really enjoyed, and I'd started reading Fiona Walker, Country Lovers, and I actually haven't finished it. Not because I'm not enjoying it, but a couple of factors actually. I'm not generally one that reads, you know, books set at a particular time of year, but it's at the moment it's very much set in the thick of winter, and I'm kind of struggling with that concept. So I think it might be one to save to read through the winter months and read something a bit more summery. Also, as I mentioned before, I was in an online group where part of that group was a book club, but I'll be honest with you, it was a fantastic group and I really enjoyed it. But I'd been in it for about a year now. It was an online group kind of for physical and mental well-being, and there was all sorts of elements to it. But I've learnt so much from it and I've really enjoyed it. Since dropping my managerial position and also being off sick for as long as I was and being on statutory sick pay, I've had to eat a little bit into my savings, and also I have taken a wage drop because I've stepped down. So I've had to have a little rethink. It was well worth the money and I loved it, but it was £20 a month, so I've actually cancelled that now. But one of the things I found, although I really enjoyed the book club, was it's supposed to be a book a month, but by the time they put the choices out there and then everybody had had a chance to jump on and pick, and then it was announced, it kept reducing the time that we had to actually read the book. And sometimes, you know, you could whiz through a book quite quickly, but other times, depending on what else is going on in your life, I was finding that by the time the book was announced and I'd actually managed to get hold of a copy, it was actually reducing that reading time down to 3 or 2 weeks. And I often do read a book in 2 weeks. I sometimes read a book in a week or a couple of days, but it was kind of that pressure to get that book read, and I was finding I wasn't enjoying reading under that kind of pressure. So I'd already bought the some of the book club books that just never got read. This Fiona Walker book wasn't part of the book club, it was just one that I'd picked up in a charity shop with a bunch of others. So I've popped this one to one side, and I've still got some others that I've got from the charity shop. The next book club book, which they've, as I say, I've actually left the group and they'd already done the book club and I was still reading it, but wouldn't necessarily have gone out and bought this one. It's Ruth Jones, the Welsh actress from Gavin and Stacey, Us Three, and it's a really lovely read and I'm really enjoying it. You can really hear the South Walian coming through in some of the characters, the way it's written, and it flips between sort of Wales and Greece is somewhere that I haven't visited for a number of years, but I really love. So really enjoying that. It's very descriptive, it's very clever, it's funny, it's an easy read. I'm absolutely flying through it, and I'm really enjoying it, but I'm enjoying reading it not under pressure. And then lined up my next book after that, I think, so I'm going to finish Us Three. I'm going to leave the Country Lovers, I think, to read more autumn winter, but I'm really looking forward to starting this one. So it's called The Catch, and it's by T.M. Logan, and I think it's going to be a bit of a, you know, a thriller. So I'm really looking forward to that. So that's the next one on my list. So I'm hoping that probably not, because see how I go. Maybe in the next Ponderings I can tell you about this one, but certainly before the end of the year I'll be letting you know how I got on with this. So that is what I've been reading and what I will be reading. And again, if you've got any book recommendations, please drop them in the comments below. I'd love any recommendations, because sometimes you know, you might be pulled in by a book and its cover or the title, or it's an author that you've read before. But if anybody's got anything to recommend, I love to read from recommendations. What have we been watching? We've actually been watching Porridge, good old Porridge with Ronnie Barker. It's such a classic series, isn't it? And we've really been enjoying that. So those of you, again, that follow us will know that, or say follow me, will know that we don't actually have a television. We do have a radio, but we don't have a television, and so we watch on the PC or on the laptops. We will sit down sometimes and watch something, not always, a couple of times a week, more through the winter months. So we generally use Netflix, Amazon Prime, but we have just discovered and signed up to BritBox, and it's got some really good, it's got all sorts on it, but lots of really good classic British films and series. It's really, you know, got some great stuff. I can't remember how much we're paying. Chris had signed up to it, but it's not very expensive and worth it for the whole plethora of good old-fashioned classics for us to watch. And a couple of nights ago we actually watched a film called The Love Punch. So it's a 2013 film, and it's got Celia Imrie, Emma Thompson, Pierce Brosnan, Timothy Spall. If you like a bit of silly British comedy, it's the film for you. It really made us laugh out loud. It's light-hearted, it's totally daft, but yeah, it was a really good classic British daft film. I mean, anything with Emma Thompson, you can't go wrong, in my opinion. So yeah, that's kind of what we've been watching, and nothing in the pipeline at the moment, but I'm sure we'll find something. It's been lovely. I think I mentioned back in one of my previous videos, after all that's been going on in the world, we've managed to start going back to the theatre, which is something that we love, and we had tickets last week, and we did the same as we did the last time. So we packed a picnic, got a bit poshed up. Chris got a bit smartened up with some smart jeans and a shirt. I put a frock on. Nice to just, you know, get a little bit dressed up. off we went to the theatre, and then on the way home after the performance we found a nice place, and we actually went back to the same spot that we did last time, which is just beautiful, sitting watching the sun. Well, the sun had actually already gone down because, of course, don't want to talk about it, but the nights are drawing in, the days are getting shorter now. But it was just beautiful, looking out across the cornfields, and enjoying a lovely picnic. We had some sandwiches and some cake and some coffee, and it was just lovely. And the performance that we went to see was actually called Every Little Hope You Ever Dreamed But Didn't Want to Mention, and it was written and performed by Sam Freeman. I don't know if it was something that's just specific to Theatre Clwyd or if it's something that's going to be touring, but if you like the theatre and it does come to your area, I can highly recommend it, especially if you grew up in the kind of 70s and 80s. So yes, if you're of a certain age, you will probably enjoy it more. I think, not to be discriminatory in any way, but I think some younger people may not have got some of the content. But oh, we totally loved it. It was absolutely brilliant, very, very clever. Just as I say, Sam Freeman on stage with his microphone, a couple of little props, and it's such a clever story. Yeah, totally got lost in it, really enjoyed it. Again, at the theatre, it's still only little groups of people. We had to wear our masks, we had to arrive only 10 minutes before the performance, not too much milling around, and there's a bit of a one-way system. But just to be back at the theatre is just lovely. It's something that we both really enjoy. So that, highly recommend that performance if you happen to live near to Theatre Clwyd, or if it does tour and you see it coming your way. If you like the theatre, highly recommend it. And then other things I've been getting up to, I have been doing a lot of, or a lot more should I say. I've always loved swimming, but I've been doing some open water swimming, and I've started doing more of that. So there's the mere, which is literally, if I walk it's 20 minutes away, and if I drive it's less than 5 minutes. So we've got the local mere, and there's a couple of areas you can swim. It's the one place I had been swimming is more of a little, it's very small, but a little beachy area. You have to kind of walk through the woods. It's very pretty. And in fact, when I've vlogged some of my dog walks, that's the area. So again, I can always pop a little link above to one of the dog walks, so you can just see the area I'm talking about. So you pootle through the woods and you come out in this little sort of beachy bay. It's only small, and you can swim there. Now, I'm very aware from what people have told me that the lake gets very deep very suddenly, and because I swim on my own, I had to be careful. So I tended to go to the beach area, and it's kind of wide, and there's a bit of a fence to stop the cattle from going round and into the woods, because they do actually go down into the water, which is a little disconcerting when you're in there and they try to join you. Not to mention the sudden realisation that you've probably taken on board some water into your mouth, and that sudden thought that if these cows are in this water, there's a very strong possibility that I might have just swallowed some cow poo or some cow wee. But hey, I'm still alive to tell the tale. A little bit of muck is good for you, as my gran used to say. But point being, that it's like a little bay area, so if I stuck between these 2 points and swam, instead of going out into the lake, I just swam from side to side in this little beach area. I could always put my feet down. But there's another area which is right in by the village, and actually there was an evening where there was an awful lot of people there, and I thought, you know what, this would be my opportunity. So I had a little chat with people, said, look, I've only swum on the beach, I haven't swum at this bit, and it does indeed go from, you know, 1 minute you're sort of about up to your waist, and then I've no idea how deep it gets, but it just drops away and you're totally out of your depth. So the trick is, if you want to swim out, is to obviously start swimming when you're only waist deep, and then just be confident and bold and swim, and not try to put your feet down. I personally don't go out too far so that I can come back, because I'm just building back up with my swimming fitness. But I have also bought a tow float now as well, so that I've got that, people can see it. If I start to get into trouble, they know where I am. But also, it's quite a nice little buoyancy aid. If you, I mean, obviously the best thing is just to go onto your back and float if you're tired, but also it's something that you can kind of rest on if you needed to. I haven't had to do that, but it's kind of nice to know it's there. And I also had a fabulous swim in the sea with my sister, and we're planning, because she likes her open water swimming as well, but she often feels a bit vulnerable going on her own. So we're going to try and do more often, me to her for the beach, and her to me for the lake. There is also another lake nearby, within driving distance at this end, at my end, rather than hers. I don't think she'd be happy swimming in the mere because of this drop, but there's a lake nearby, and you do have to pay to go to that one, but it would be worth it for, you know, to enjoy it and for the safety. I think it's £6.50 to swim there, and you can spend all day there. You know, take a picnic, potter about, so you could either just go and do the swim, or you could spend a bit of time there, and that's got a much more gradual slope, and there's all sorts of activities and things going. It's actually called Aldford Lake. So again, anybody sort of in the Wrexham, Whitchurch area, Shropshire way, if you haven't heard of Aldford Lake, do go and check it out. It's absolutely lovely there. They've got all sorts of activities for adults and children. They've got a little climbing wall. They've got the lake. There's people on paddle boards, swimming. They do triathlon. They've got like a bouncy, inflatable area for people to play. They have the farmers markets. They've got lovely food. They've got a lovely farm shop, all sorts there. So Aldford Lake in Shropshire, again, highly recommend. And I'm still doing a little bit of painting, so I'm still really enjoying sort of pootling about with pencils and crayons, and art materials. Watercolour I'm really getting into. I'm never going to be an artist or a millionaire, but I just really enjoy it, and it's the process, isn't it? So I know that one of my lovely subscribers, if you're watching, Linda Penny, I know you've been inspired to start doing art again, and I know you're really enjoying it, and I really appreciate you sharing some of your work with me. It's been lovely to see that. So I hope you're watching. Big shout out to you. Keep it up. So yeah, it's just a lovely process, and it's very mindful. You know, and on a rainy day or on a day that you just need to be still, it's something that you can really absorb yourself in. So I think I've rambled on for long enough. Um, I hope you like these ponderings. They do always seem to get good viewings. People seem to like them, and I do apologise for missing last month. Um, and the regular content, as I say, that I have been putting out. If there's anything that you're missing or anything you'd like to see, just drop me a comment below, and if I can get that filmed for you, then I will. So as ever, I hope you're all well. I hope those of you that are gardeners are really enjoying your gardening at the moment and getting lots done. Those of you that don't garden, I hope that you're enjoying all the hobbies and things that you do in life. Make sure you get some downtime, look after yourselves, it's so important. Thank you so much for watching, I genuinely do appreciate it. Take care, and I'll see you all again soon.